Hey guys, it's Danny. I am back from my little hiatus of a few days. Holidays are done. It is time to get back to work, and as promised, today I am going to deliver the one and only yearly Phalaenopsis show. Yes, we're gonna take a look at all of the Phalaenopsis that I have in bloom. And when I say all, I mean not really the Polychilus type Phalaenopsis, but the other ones that are not summer blooming. Does that make sense? Anyway, today I'm going to show you a lot of flower shop stuff, and as such, many of these orchids are not registered. They don't have names, they did not come with tags. I managed to identify some of them, but even so, some of these orchids do not have a name. If I have a name for them, I'll put it on the screen. If nothing appears, then the orchid is a no ID, and if you have even a commercial name for it, you can let me know down below in a comment. So before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it, and why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week when there's no holiday, and it's completely free. But if you're feeling a little extra and you can and you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member and getting access to some behind the scenes and some exclusive videos such as the Orchid Spotlights. You can also use the affiliate links down below in the description. You can check out the merch. We have beautiful orchid mugs at the moment, or you can use the super thanks option down below my videos. Right, so with that said, let us start with one of my absolute favorite Phalaenopsis in my collection. This is the Sweet Girl, Shiny Girl. This is not necessarily a flower shop Phalaenopsis, but I do see it quite commonly in orchid nurseries, and it's just one of those that takes all of the boxes for me, minus one. It is not fragrant. Most of these orchids are not really fragrant, with a few exceptions, but this one has that beautiful yellow and white contrast, which some of you know I really like. Why? I don't know, it might be a little boring, but to me, this association of colors is just so elegant and ethereal. Anybody else? Is it just me with the yellow and white? Anyway, it is a beautiful flower shop type Phalaenopsis, which means it blooms after a bit of a cool down in the autumn. If you don't know about this, I'll link you to some care tutorials down below in the description, and you'll learn how to rebloom a flower shop Phalaenopsis. But yeah, I decided to put this one first because she is my pride and joy, my little sunshine. I also like how compact the flowering is, and if you like Phalaenopsis, I think you will absolutely enjoy having this one in your collection. Next up, we have a newer Phalaenopsis that I have been sent by a lovely viewer. This is the Annalorati Socardi. Again, this is not a flower shop Phalaenopsis, but you can definitely find it in orchid nurseries. Now, this one has an absolutely stunning lip. Do we see it? And bonus, it is a little bit fragrant. It has a bit of a florally and fruity scent to it. It's not very strong, but there's something there. One thing that I cannot capture on camera is the true color. It appears to be quite a cool pink. Well, in reality, it's not like that. It's more of a light magenta or light sweet pink. Cameras can have issues picking up correct colors of orchids, so just so you know, this one doesn't look as cool toned. It's more of a warm toned orchid, which makes it even better. Next up, here we have a no ID I've had for a lot of years. This is a mini Phalaenopsis that is not mini anymore. All of them will pretty much become a medium-sized type of Phalaenopsis. This one is a bit of an exception because generally I don't like this cool-toned burgundy on my orchids, but this is an exception, and as you can see, the flowering show is really lush. My birds are having a day today. So yeah, the flowering is just so beautiful and so lush that I really like it, even though it's not my favorite color. Bonus, the lip is light colored, creates that beautiful contrast between a lighter color and a darker color that I really like. Not as much as yellow and white, but I really do like this one. Next up, here is a no ID Phalaenopsis that we've named Vanilla, me and my mom. This is my very first orchid ever. This is a cakey of that. It's been almost 15 years at this point since we have this one. The mother plant doesn't really exist anymore, but me and my mom both have some cakeys from that orchid which are identical clones, so in essence it really is the same orchid. And look at that color. It's not white, it's not yellow, it's something in between. It's really beautiful, but it's a simple Phalaenopsis. It just has a lot of emotional value for me. Next, another mini Phalaenopsis that I have for a lot of years. I think I discovered the name in my searches at one point, but then I lost it again. It's something I don't really see very often, the coloration and the pattern on the flowers. I see often one that looks similar to this. You'll see it later in the video, but this particular one I don't. It has a very, let's say, pressed or squished shape to the flower. Do we see it's longer than it is tall? It is a beautiful individual, and I don't know how it's called, and I've never seen it for sale again since I purchased this one many years ago, 6 years ago or something. Anyway, beautiful orchid, no fragrance. Most of these don't have a fragrance, but it's absolutely wonderful. Next up, another orchid that I don't have an ID for, but this one is pretty common. I absolutely adore the lavender, let's say, color and that orange lip. Oh, my girls want to go out in the aviary. Yes, okay, I'll take you. Let me finish this video. It has been raining lately, so I brought them back in, but now they want to go out again. Right, so this orchid has a beautiful contrast between that lavender color and the orange lip. Now, I've seen this one around quite a bit. It looks to be a Schilleriana hybrid, but I'm not sure because there is no fragrance and the leaves don't have any mottling or anything of the sorts. Anyway, I really like this one for the combination of colors. It's also a very prolific bloomer. The flower spikes are compact, and I absolutely do love the contrast between the colors that it has on the lip and on the flowers. Next up, another orchid that I received a couple of years ago, I do believe, and at some point I think again that I found an ID, but I'm not sure where it went. This is a flower shop find, but not of mine, of one of my viewers. Oh no, the workers outside are starting to make noise. Sorry about that. So this one looked like it would be a polychilus type, but it's not really. It doesn't have a fragrance, and it does bloom after a cool down. Okay, hold on, I need to close the windows. Okay, hope this is better. I live in a very, very, very noisy neighborhood, as you know, but guess what? Within the month, I think we're gonna be moved. I'm so excited beyond belief. Hopefully, I will not have such noisy neighbors there. Who knows? But anyway, so about this orchid, it looks like it's a polychilus hybrid. It might be, but it still acts more like a flower shop Phalaenopsis. It needs a cool down in the winter. It doesn't really have a fragrance, but those flowers are really brightly colored and they are very waxy. I love it nonetheless, and I love how compact the flowering is. Next up, one that does have an ID. This is Sogogotris. It's an older hybrid, and again, I've had this orchid for a lot of years. Look at those roots. These guys need to be repotted. They've been in the same pot for 4 years, and that medium is done. It doesn't even retain water anymore. Anyway, this is the orchid I was telling you that looks a little bit like the other one that I cannot really find anymore, or I don't see as often in flower shops. But the Sogogotris is a very common mini Phalaenopsis to have. I know it ever since I started my orchid collecting hobby. And even if this one is not that old in my collection, it's still, I think, a reputable 7 years or so in my collection. And look at it, it's not mini anymore, but I really do enjoy the flowers. I actually enjoy all of the mini orchids that I have. That's why I have so many, in so many maybe similar colors. They just bring me joy, and they're just so easy to take care of, and they're just so affordable. Next up, a mini Phalaenopsis that I really, 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 really like. Again, one that looks like a Schilleriana hybrid, but I'm not sure it is. This one, it's, I guess, amongst my favorite mini phals due to the fact that it's just so lovely. It has such a lovely lavender color, and the lip is a little bit lighter in color. It's more of a white color. There is no fragrance, but this orchid always blooms with such a compact show. Now, one of the flower spikes this year is a little bit bent. It got stuck in the foliage, so that's why one of the flower spikes appears to be so close to the actual orchid. And I have to say, I love the look. If my Phalaenopsis orchids would create shorter flower spikes but more dense flower spikes, I would be so happy. Look how well it goes with this self-watering pot that is tall. It is amazing. But no, this is a glitch. Overall, this orchid is compact as it is, so I can't ask for much more. But yeah, this is a happy little accident that we have here with the flower spike getting caught up in the leaves, because it makes for a wonderful show. And by the way, I was saying these pots are self-watering. Yes, the outside white cover is actually a reservoir. Down, you can store a little bit of water, and that helps a lot here in my environment, and my mini orchids really do enjoy it. Plus, the fact that the pots are tall makes it for a much lovelier display with the flowers. And I'm losing my voice. It's very early in the morning and I just started to talk. Right, next up, another favorite. I have no idea for this one, but I absolutely enjoy the flowers due to how compact they are. Yes, the flower spikes are a little tall, but the flower display looks very compact, and I do absolutely enjoy the color as well, and the pattern. I think you can see why it's hard to find an ID for this one. It's a little bit generic, I would say, but it's just absolutely charming, and especially if you see it in real life, there's something about it that is very charming. Also notice how much more hydrated these orchids are that have already been repotted and self-watering. Yes, they're getting proper hydration. No, the other ones with their amount of roots do not get proper hydration anymore because it's impossible. I need to repot them into a more water retentive medium. But yeah, you can see the difference in lushness in these orchids. This spring, oh gosh, do I have time? I need to repot all of them. We're gonna see if I have time. But yeah, these girls need repotting. Next up, another favorite, again, because the color combination is not really or that common, and I found an ID for this one. It's called Horngling Moor. Now, please take these IDs with a grain of salt. What I did was just endlessly Google search pictures and stuff. So some of these IDs are not placed there by the nursery. Some names are commercial as well. So I'm trying to find these IDs to help you find these orchids, but take the IDs with a grain of salt because I put them there, not the nursery. Now, this orchid has a wonderful lemony yellow color and a wonderful red lip. A color combination which is not very, very common with mini Phalaenopsis, and I'm so happy I found this one in a flower shop. Sometimes the flowers have a little bit of Peloric, so there is a gene in this orchid that sometimes shows itself, which makes some of the flowers a little Peloric. As you can see, they're not fully open, but that is okay. I still really adore this orchid, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful in this pot. Next up, another no ID. Initially, I thought it's the big lip version of the Sogo Vivian, but I'm not so sure anymore. I've had this orchid again for a lot of time, and somebody actually sent it to me, a lovely lady, and I absolutely adore this orchid, but this one is suffering. This one needs to come out of that pot. I need to repot it into something more water retentive, and I think you can see the flowers show not as good as other years, and the roots everywhere. It needs intervention. But anyway, this is a big lip version of an already existing stripy type mini Phalaenopsis, and especially when it's in good shape, it creates the most wonderful cluster of flowers. I adore big lips on Phalaenopsis orchids, and big lips on mini Phals, gorgeous. Next, another oldie but goldie. I see this one quite a lot. This is a mini phal that has a wonderful splash of purple on what looks to be a white flower. Now, the background is white, but the orchid itself is quite purpley, and what I love most about it is how this purple fades into the background white color. It makes for a wonderful contrast, but a soft transition. I really like this feature. I like this pattern, and in the first one with the yellow and red that I showed you, which I said I don't really find it all that often, it's the same thing. That splash of color in the middle fades gradually in the background, and I really like this feature of some of these orchids. Next up, another no ID that is just absolutely fabulous and out of this world. I don't know how I found it at the flower shop. I don't know what this is. It looks very much like an Equestris hybrid. The flowers have that shape, and just how it blooms in general is very reminiscent of the Equestris species. But do you see the richness of these flower spikes? I am over the moon. It is such a beautiful multiflora, which reminds me a little of the soft cloud. But this one is not a mini Phalaenopsis, and also this one is not prone to creating terminal spikes, which is great. It's very branchy, very easy to take care of, but it requires quite a lot of resources, especially when it's producing so many flowers. It needs a lot of water, it needs a lot of fertilization, and so far so good. But I do believe I did not repot this orchid yet. It's still maybe in the flower shop medium, so yeah, I need to add slow release fertilizer. I need to add a bigger pot to it. It needs attention, but even with not the most glamorous type of care, look what it created this year. I'm so happy about it. It's just a normal flower shop Phalaenopsis, you guys, and look at that potential. When I purchased it, it did not have this potential because it was young. But there you go. These flower shop Phalaenopsis will always be much better than when you purchase them. Next time, here we have Liu's Tree Prince or Tri Prince Pink. This is the one that I purchased from the Netherlands last year, and this is the first time it reblooms for me. And just look at that richness. I love, again, how compact it is and how branchy the flowers are. And again, we have that beautiful shape to the lip that the Analurati had in the beginning. I think the parent is Phalaenopsis lobi. I'm not sure, but I do believe that one has this beautiful shaped lip that I absolutely adore. Whenever I find one of these hybrids, I get it because I love that lip, that triangular lip. Anyway, this one does not have a fragrance like the previous one that looks similar, but it has such a wonderful magical color, which looks a little faded on camera, but in reality it's much more striking. Again, a flower shop find, but not one from my own country. I actually traveled with this one to bring it to my country, and it was well worth it. Another no ID Phalaenopsis that looks a little bit like another one that I showed you, but it's not. It's something else. This one has a lot of thrips and spider mites damage, but now she's clean of all of these pests. But yeah, that's what those wounds are. Again, I really enjoy how the splash of color just fades a little bit feathery in the yellow background. This one is not as pretty as the other one that I showed you, and it has suffered a little bit, especially with mites and pests, so it's not putting on the best show, but it's still lovely. I have her for a lot of years, and I still love it, even if it looks a little bit similar to a different one. Next up, another one that I received from a lovely viewer. I don't have an ID for this one, but it has a very subtle, let's say, color and features. It has a beautiful dotted pattern on a very pale flower, but it's kind of fairy tale-y, I would say. Don't you think? I really love that really pronounced lip. Do you see how big the lip is in comparison to the flowers? There is no fragrance, but it is a very beautiful mini phal. And that very subtle pattern in the middle, the pink dots, they're really cute and make you take a closer look. Next up, one that has an ID. This is Little Zoro, and this is an ID placed there by the nursery, because this one I ordered. Some people find this one in flower shops. I don't. I don't think I'll ever find it in flower shops here. But this is one of those orchids which looks orange, but it's not. It's actually yellow and has a orange or maroon pattern on it. It has a lot of lines or a lot of stripes, and it makes it look orange. I love this orchid for this particular feature, also for the fact that the flowers are very round and the flower spikes are very compact. Wonderful orchid. You'd think it's fragrant, it's not. It might be more of a Polychilus hybrid, but it acts like a typical Phalaenopsis orchid. But I do believe it's one of those that puts a smile on your face and just brightens your day with its coloration. And see what I mean about the pattern? The pattern is the one that gives the color, but the background color is actually yellow. It's very interesting. I love this aspect about some orchids. Next up, another favorite of mine. This is Pink Flamingo. This is a commercial name that I found written on the pot of this orchid. So is it an ID? Maybe. I don't know. This is how the nursery named it, okay? But I don't think it's a registered hybrid. Now, this is one of the only orchids in my collection that have this wonderful magenta color. This particular bright magenta shade is not as common as you'd think, and I'm surprised I found it on a flower shop Phalaenopsis, but I absolutely adore this color. The orchid herself has beautiful leaves as well, seems to be quite compact, and the flowers are tiny even though it's not a mini Phalaenopsis. It's just absolutely wonderful. It's missing a fragrance, but hey, we can do without, and I find that the name is very fitting. Does it look like a flamingo? I don't know, but the color is beautiful. It reminds me of flamingos. Next up, another mini Phalaenopsis. It's again one of my they're all my favorites, but this one in particular I absolutely adore due to that lacy pattern on the edge of the petals. Do you see it? Do you see how beautiful it is? It's like lace. I've never seen another hybrid have this pattern, and this is quite common in flower shops. I see it every once in a while, pretty much every year. I do see this pattern. It's not something rare or anything, but I don't see other varieties having this lacy pattern on their flowers, so I really like it. I like how compact it is. Notice how some of these orchids tend to grow rather upright flower spikes, and others they do like to grow on a horizontal, And they're placed in the same area, so it's just genetics here, but I really like these ones that tend to grow their flower spikes up above the foliage. And speaking about favorites, this one is another favorite because it's a big lip mini Phalaenopsis, but just take a look how elegant it is. It has a white ruffly margin, which, you know, looks a little bit lacy, but not really. This one just looks like the material has an underlayer of white, right? It's so elegant. I don't know why. And that big lip just ties it all in together, and that beautiful center, like I like to call it the nose, the white nose, it's a masterpiece. Whoever created this hybrid, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I think it's one of the most beautiful mini Phalaenopsis you can find in flower shops. And that big lip, I adore that trend right now. I'm here for it. Here's yet another mini Phalaenopsis that I received from a wonderful, beautiful viewer. Take a look at that color. It looks very leather-like, right? The background is yellow, but there is this very rich and warm chocolatey maroon on it. I really like this one. It looks like it could be a polychilous hybrid because the flowers are very waxy and very sturdy, but there is no fragrance, and again, the orchid needs a cool down. Also, I showered these orchids because they were very, very dusty, so some of them still have a little bit of water on them left, but it's so hot here now that in an hour everything is gone. But yeah, I find this one to be very elegant, but it's a classical elegance. It's beautiful. Next, another no ID mini Phalaenopsis. This is like your most common mini Phalaenopsis at the flower shop, just the purple one. This is the purple one. And the flowers are actually a little bit mangled, especially in the back there, because they were growing in the pot of another one above it. Sometimes, if I'm not careful, these flower spikes are invisible and they grow in all sorts of corners of my shelf, which give them a bit of a weird shape. And this is what happened to this one, but it's still a lovely show. These flower spikes are created by a mother plant and a basil keiki. The more plants in the pot, the more flowers. So I just let them be together, and I really love the bloom show. Next, here is a Peloric mini Phalaenopsis. This is a very classical Peloric mini phal that I've known for a lot of years, but I absolutely adore this type of Peloria where the petals tend to take the shape of the lip, and we end up with these club shape. Do you know the clubs from the deck of cards? Yeah, this is how I like to call this type of Peloria because that's the shape that the petals create. I love it. I'm such a huge fan of this type of Peloria. This and the big lip, they're my favorite features. Let's say extra features on these mini Phalaenopsis. I have this one for many years and I adore it. I never want to part ways with it. It's so beautiful. Next up, here is a Fragrant mini Phalaenopsis. This one smells like dust and lemons. Very appealing. I'm not a fan of the fragrance and it's quite strong, but it's not that bad, I guess. But yeah, this is a mini Phalaenopsis that is yellow and again has a pattern that gives it more of a reddish purpley type of look, but I think you can see the stripy pattern is what creates the color. The background color is actually yellow. And this is again a very common flower shop Phalaenopsis in this area at least. And the fact that it's fragrant, it's something. Maybe you would enjoy the fragrance, so definitely don't skip it because it smells dusty. Maybe it's just my nose. But yeah, this one, and it's quite strong. This one, if I'm in the area of the Phalaenopsis, this is what I detect first and foremost. Next up, an orchid that I didn't really catch in her prime. This is Little Gem Stripes, a classic even on my channel, but quite a classic hybrid. It has a beautiful white flower with a wonderful purple lip. Very common, I would say, very popular hybrid, and for good reason. When it's in full glory, it looks absolutely wonderful. It looks like a cloud, really, and I definitely think you should have it. I just didn't catch it in its prime, sadly. Next up, we have a yellow mini Phalaenopsis, which has a really pretty display. Last year it didn't bloom so well, but this year it looks very pretty. It's again one of those more subtle colors. It's a yellowish, vanilla-ish, let's say, color with a beautiful dotted pattern in the middle. Looks a little bit like a previous one I showed you, but it's still different enough for me to have both of them. Goodness, burdens! They are very vocal today. So yeah, again, no fragrance. How cool would it be for this one to smell like lemons? It would fit so well, but it doesn't. It looks very, very similar to another one, yes, now that I look at the footage, but it's okay. I love both of them. Next, another favorite. This is another Peloric one, but in this case, the petals don't look so club-shaped. They just have more of a triangular shape. And this is again very common in flower shops. Here, I have this one for quite a few years and I see it almost every year when they bring in the mini Phalaenopsis. I stopped buying mini Phalaenopsis because I kind of have all of them, all the varieties, but once in a blue moon, there is one of those varieties that I don't have and I need to purchase. Yes, honey. Yes, I know, they're bored of me already. Anyway, it's a lovely orchid and the blooms are always a little bit different. You can see they have that pattern that can vary. So I really, really like this one. It's always fun to see how it's gonna look like this year. Next, this is J-Ho's Pink Girl, but I think you know it for so many years on my channel now. Yeah, this is another oldie but goldie, has a bit of a fragrance, bit of a violets fragrance to it, and it's absolutely beautiful. A classical hybrid, which it is a Schilleriana hybrid, and the leaves can have a bit of mottling depending on the individual, but it's definitely worth having. Another oldie but goldie, Smiley Tangerine. Purchased this one from an orchid nursery, and look at that! I broke one of the flower spikes, but it's hanging on for dear life in a glass of water. Yeah, it happens that sometimes these orchids fall on top of each other because there are just so many of them, and I have them in a precarious shelf arrangement, one on top of the other in a ladder-like situation that sometimes, you know, the roots get stuck into a different orchid's pot and yeah, things happen. Anyway, I absolutely adore this orchid because it is indeed a novelty hybrid. It has polychilus in its parentage, it has a bit of a fruity smell, the waxy flowers, but it behaves like a Phalaenopsis type. It needs a cool down, but it just doesn't produce that abundance of flowers or a cascade of flowers, but the color is absolutely worth it. Next up, we have a very classical hybrid. This is the Gold Staff, and I've had it for a lot of years, but this year is the first time the keiki actually blooms. Remember, this is the orchid that I showed you last year, that it had an AC dripping in its crown. I think this is the one. And the mother plant suffered from crown rot. Well, this is the keiki produced during last year, and this is the flower spike. Yes, this is how fast they grow. But you can see the flower spike is nothing necessarily to write home about. It definitely needs to grow a little bit more to put on a better show, but it is a show nonetheless. And also this orchid is a little bit scented. It smells, again, slightly mildly dusty, but more lemony. This one has a better smell than the other one. And it is a classic. Many people actually have this hybrid, and it looks very, very vivid. Definitely something you would like if you're into Phalaenopsis. Next, this is the Phalaenopsis Tysico Jasper, and I totally forgot I had it. This is a Peloric, as you can see, but it is a Doritis hybrid, former Doritis hybrid, which gives it that shape and the straight growth of the flower spikes. It looks very, very, very pretty. I'm so happy that I still have it. I completely forgot that this was in my collection. But again, it has that beautiful warm magenta coloration on a background of yellow. Beautiful contrast. What a wonderful orchid to forget you have, right? I can't believe I forgot it. But there it is. She bloomed this year. I think she skipped a year. I think she skipped last year for whatever reason, and that's why I forgot I had it. But anyway, she's gorgeous. I love it. A little bit close to the light, hence the very light color of the leaves. I placed it lower on the shelf now. I had a light that fell and didn't notice, and it was very close to it, so that's why it's a little yellow. But other than that, it's just wonderful. And the last orchid that I will show you today, wow, I forgot the name of it, but it does have a tag. I purchased this one from a nursery, and it's a hybrid I see everywhere in flower shops now. I didn't think it would be a flower shop orchid, but here she is. This one has some issues, and I've seen it with the other orchids in flower shops as well. It produces a lot of basal keikis, and the crown tends to kind of stop growing. This is what happened to mine. So that's why you see this orchid has a lot of flower spikes. They're not all coming from the mother plant. plant. Most of them, I think they're from the keikis. At some point, I need to separate the keikis because this orchid gets no more hydration. She has such a tall stem, and it's gonna be an interesting case to film separately, if you'd like me to. It is beautiful. I absolutely adore the flower shape, but the orchid herself has some growth features, let's put it like that, I'm not a fan of. She's not a very compact grower. She produces all of these basil keikis. I don't know what to say about this one. I don't like the way it grows, but I do like the flowers. So for today, that is it. I mean, I could have included the Kes Balm as well, but she kind of lost most of her flowers. There are a few that I'm not going to include because they're just not in their prime, and we can live without them. This year. We will have a better bloom show next year, but that is about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Again, you have care tutorials down below in the description, and the takeaway of this video is if you care for your typical flower shop Phalaenopsis well, you can get rewarded with some of the most wonderful bloom shows in the orchid world. And that is not even an exaggeration, as you can see. Sometimes these very easy to find and affordable, no ID finds in the flower shop can make the best shows. So don't skip on them. They're absolutely amazing. I cannot get enough of them. After all of these years of trying all sorts of other types of orchids, the mini phals for me are some of the best. Anyway, so thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed hanging out with me today and taking this tour of my mini Phalaenopsis and Phalaenopsis in general. And let me know in a comment which ones are your favorites, because maybe we're gonna do some merch with them. Who knows? Right, so with that said, hope you'll have a great weekend and I'll see you next time. Bye!